And when it comes to the question of the Mk.2 pipe bug, so I actually have something. This probably should be warranted enough for a video at some point, or like a bigger discussion. But so here's the thing, okay? So gather around the campfire. Okay, this is actually gonna take a while to talk about this. I actually do want to talk about this. For a long time, people have been talking about like pipe bugs for the game, specifically tied to the Mk.2 pipes, right? People have noticed that like there are issues where they don't get the full 600 throughput that's promised by the pipes, right? Now the thing is, there are bugs in the game that are directly tied to pipes, specifically, and like especially when there are floor holes or pumps involved. There are a couple of cases where, yeah, there are straight up bugs in the game when those are involved that messes up the pipes. And those have been fixed as far as I know for 1.0. However, there's one thing where people are complaining that like when they're setting up certain manifold setups with pipes, they're not getting the full 600 throughput. And a lot of people are always going like, oh, it's a bug in the game probably, they'll fix it. And since we don't like fully understood the problem, we've always been like, oh yeah, we'll look into it and see if we can fix that. And we have looked into it, and we've sort of concluded that it's not a bug. It's just the system does the way it's supposed to. It's not supposed to give you full throughput, and because there's like I wish I could explain this properly. I need to actually have talks with G2 about this stuff because he knows more about it. But there's something called like water hammering, which is an actual fluid dynamics thing where like when you have like a stop in a pipe and you push water through it, it will slosh back and forth in the system or something. And that's something that happens in real life. If you build pipes in that way, that will happen. And there are ways to circumvent it when you're building manifolds. So like the discussion is rather, okay, that's annoying. Should that be a feature in the game or not? Like it's not really a bug. It's actually intended behavior in the way that we've implemented fluid dynamics, but it's kind of annoying. And the fact that like people misunderstand it as being a bug, that's the discussion that we're having right now. So like when people are asking now like, hey, are you gonna fix the Mk.2 bugs with pipes? Now the question is rather, how, like, it might not be a bug. It might actually be how the system is designed. So the question is probably rather, should we allow like water hammering in the game or not? Or like, should the fluid dynamics be less realistic so that this doesn't happen? And it's possible to set up manifolds in certain ways. And the thing is, if we do fix it and make it so that like this doesn't happen, then fluid dynamics might change quite drastically for pipes throughout the entire game, because then they won't function the same way, because like that aspect of pipes, that's an aspect of like how fluid dynamics have been designed for the game. So if we're gonna fix that, we have to change how the fluid dynamics works. And that can drastically change how other pipe networks are set up. So like potentially if we do change it so that that doesn't happen, that can actually change a lot of like existing systems. So that's something that we are like delving into and sort of trying to figure out how we want to tackle that. There are pipe bugs that are like straight up pipe bugs, yes. But like from the majority of cases when we've actually looked into it and gotten people save files and stuff, and we're actually debugging the pipes, we don't notice like an issue like per se. It's an issue that like you can't get it to do what you want it to do, but it's also like part of the fact that like fluid dynamics are confusing, and due to like how they work, they behave. That behavior comes from the fact of how they're developed. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk. We're probably going to talk more about this in a future video or something, because I think this is really interesting. And I think this is something that we sort of need to talk more about and sort of communicate as to why this is. Because it's kind of hard when, like, for the longest time, like the interfacing of this has been that like, I don't understand the problem. and like people come to me and tell me like, hey, there's a bug in the game with pipes and they behave in a certain way, and I'm like, all right, cool. I don't know too much about it. Whenever I've set up pipes with 600, they've always worked for me. But that's just because I'm so big brain and know exactly how to set up pipes, or I'm just lucky. I could be one of those two. And that's been sort of our experience as well. Like we've always seen people talk about the like all the Mk.2 pipe bugs and blah blah blah. And when we've been playtesting ourselves, we haven't really noticed it. And that's probably because like the way we play the game isn't how other people are playing the game. So like when that does happen, that sort of bubbles up and it becomes a whole discussion thing. So I hope I can get back to you guys and talk more about this stuff and give you more like explanation. Like either if we don't fix it, like give an explanation why it happens so that we can sort of avoid it, and then maybe like make it easier for people in the community to be able to communicate like, oh, if you're running into this issue, it's because of this and this and this, and how you can like build to avoid it. And if we do change it, like we can also talk about like what to change, how it impacts the game and stuff like that. But yeah, bear in mind that like this is one of our I don't think we've committed to this yet. This is just we're in the discovery phase of solving this issue. And the discovery the discovery phase is obviously like trying to understand the problem as much as possible. And it really isn't clear cut. It's not as clear cut as like, oh, it's just a bug in the pipes. It's way more complicated than that. So we're gonna look into it. We're gonna see if we can come up with a solution that, you know, makes it good for everyone. And we'll get you guys along for the ride. But it's annoying that it took us so long to get to the point now where we can have more of that we actually understand the problem. Because I think for the longest time we sort of taken everyone's input and be like, okay, it's just a bug, I guess, with the piping. But now that we actually delved more into it and we understand it more behind the scenes, now we realize that like, okay, it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's not just like an issue. It is an issue, but it's not like, yeah, it's complicated essentially.
Time to implement water baffles.
Baffles. And I don't know. When I talked to people, we were pretty confident that like we think we're gonna figure out a solution to this. But there might be a case where we need to like communicate more, like how to resolve this and why it happens as well. But yeah, again, just to clarify, there are pipe bugs as well. So like sometimes it's also a combination of things where people are saying this effect because they're also running into an actual bug that then trickles down into the system that makes it so that you don't get full 600 flow rate. So like it's a really complicated issue. And the more we dive into it, the more we're like, this is not just this. It's like this as well. So, but yeah, like I mentioned, we're still in sort of the discovery phase. We're gonna figure this out more and let you guys know how it goes. I just thought it was interesting that like it wasn't so clear cut, I guess. So more news at 11, I guess. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Stay tuned for more. Cool.